Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech, protected.
Morning, Bellows Falls, and welcome to the feed. Here we are again. This is a special legislative update. We're here with Marty Gallagher and Kelley Tullly, and we're going to do some talking about the legislature. Kelley, having a hard time talking today, but Kelley's just out of a session with the legislature. Hi, Kelley.
Hello, how are you today?
Hi, Marty.
Hey.
So here we're back for a special legislative update, and I wanted to ask you what's happening at the state. We were in the middle of this virus. We just had our big Memorial Day opening of the state, and so how are things going?
Well, things are certainly busy, and I think the more we learn, the more questions we have. One of the things that certainly has come up that is still current that I've been working a lot of hours on is the legislative action team, where there's a group of us that are trying to work with the folks that have not received unemployment and try to be a conduit between the constituents and the Department of Labor. So we've done a lot of calls. I've had probably just about 40 people I've been working with to try to see if we can't get them paid. About halfway through that, a little closer to 2/3 of the people that I've been working with have finally received their payment. So that's been quite a process, and that's been taking up a lot of time. We've had a great legislative, I think we talked about it last time, but we do have great team leaders on that are helping us get the emails through to the Department of Labor.
So do you work with people that are just your people who you represent, just your constituents, or everybody across the state?
Everybody across the state. That's a great question, Mike. Everybody across the state. Actually, I'm only probably working directly with one person that's in our district. Everybody else is from around the state, and so what happens is you call your representative, then so if you called me, I would fill in this form, and then it would get sent to the legislative team, and then they would divvy it up and assign it to a legislator volunteer, such as myself. And so I worked with people from all over the state, and they do have that question. I said, well, how come I'm not working with my regular legislator? But we kind of divvy it up, and there's about 25 of us that have been volunteering, and so. But if you do, even if I don't work with you, I've submitted your information into the legislative action team, and hopefully a lot of stuff is starting to turn around. There are still people that are still bogged down in the system because the system is struggling.
Oh.
About how many people in the state, maybe you said this, but about how many people in the state are still waiting, like the whole state?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure if I have a super accurate number on that. I think there's got to be there's got to be over 2,500 people waiting to get paid. I wish I had a better number for you. We've solved issues. We're actually dealing with people who will qualify for the pandemic unemployment. Unemployment is a little bit more straightforward. The pandemic unemployment are the people that don't fit into that round hole. They're not a peg, so they do have a job that they get a regular paycheck. Somebody who is a small business owner who might not, they're the sole proprietor, their payments might look a little bit different and not just a straight W-2 form. So those are the ones that are a little bit more complicated. So we've been working with that group of people, the PUA people. Once you apply for unemployment and are denied, then the state form should then say, well, if you've been denied for that, then you may qualify for the pandemic unemployment assistance. And that's the group that we're working with.
Yeah, that's a really important point because that's the pandemic unemployment or for people who may be self-employed, who
Right.
typically wouldn't have been, they really don't get unemployment compensation, but because they're sort of their own business. Yeah. So,
Right. Yep.
yeah.
And so they've been, I mean, they're, you know, they just wanna, we just wanna make sure that we're following them from the time they are actually certainly frustrated with the process, and we then take the information, and when I get somebody, I just call them. They can call me, they can email me, and we stay in touch to make sure that every step of the way until they actually have that payment either in their account or in their hand. We just want to make sure they get what they need.
Yeah.
And as we go through that, whoever, you know, we speak to, we always make sure that in the meantime, if they're not getting paid, do they have access to any medications that they need? And I also ask them if they have enough food, because there's certainly a lot of sources and a lot of people that have been helping, you know, with the mutual aid and that portion, that even if they have to wait a little bit longer for their payment, which we hope is not long at all, that they end up, we can at least point them in the right direction so they have food, they have what they need.
Yeah. And if, when they do get paid, it's retroactive to their date of application, right? Or is it?
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
Okay, good. What else is happening? You're in session, so you just finished today, your session today. How long does it look? Because isn't it normally over by the middle of May?
Normally it's over by as I'm told, it's normally over by the middle of May. We will probably go well into June. We're really hammering out a lot of the budget right now, at least the first half of the budget. They do want us to get at least the first part of the budget set for, certainly July, the fiscal year 2021, the first half of it started. So we do that. And then they want us to come back again in late August or early September to hammer out the rest of it. So we'll, that's what they're saying that they'd like us to be able to do. So we're at least planning on that. I actually just got out of Judiciary Committee, was the first session I had this morning. I have the House session this afternoon, and we were working on just making sure that, again, back to the temporary coverage of some of the laws we were working on with House Judiciary, was working with Senate Judiciary, because they and the Department of Motor Vehicles, as far as DUIs and how licenses, if it's a first, second, or third offense, what happens to the process, and to get, again, that's to cover during the COVID 19 emergency. So once everything is back to a semi-normal state, all the regular laws will go back into effect. This is just a kind of a bridge. So if you can't be there in person, how is this going to happen? So that was the one we were working on today. We do have certainly the governor has come up with the next phase of what he hopes to do for economic recovery package. I don't know if you folks have looked at that a bit.
Well, I know that he's talking about opening up more businesses like gyms and hairstyling salons and tattoo parlors and things like that this coming, what is it, this Friday? I think he's going to announce it, and they would open on the following Monday or something like that. How does the legislature, well, first of all, I'd like to go back with the DWI. They're adjusting it because people can't go to court, or?
Yep.
So basically stretching things out, or is it like an automatic sentence, or do they put them on hold, or how does that go?
Well, I think they still follow the regular laws that are in place, but what we were doing was the Senate had it was really about the civil license suspension hearings and how to handle those, and so to make sure that they were, if they did have their license revoked, that it was proper representation for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So can they do that by Zoom then, or or like a group online meeting, or how is that changing?
Well, as far as that, I can pull that up here, that what we were working on today, and it was really, a provision for how they could, to make sure they're following the statutory timeframes for any preliminary hearings. I'm trying to see what else we did with that. And it was just to support the civil suspension. The Commissioner of Motor Vehicles will not, make sure that they pull it without a hearing, that there has to be a hearing held, that they can't just do it just because you can't be there in person.
Okay, yeah. Tricky
All
stuff.
these little details, all these things that I think people just aren't thinking of. And they're probably, you're trying to anticipate things coming up, and then something pops up and you've got to react and be fluid. So it must extremely, extremely interesting to be there in these times.
It is. I think one of the hardest things is really, as far as the budget goes, is to make sure that the schools and their budgets can function. I know that that's been, a real difficult, because, as far as all the sales tax that goes to support the education budget, and we're missing all the tourism, and that's really a huge effect on, I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges is for the school systems.
Is there an estimate of how much revenue we're losing?
Mm-hmm. Oh, what was it around? We were missing, trying to find the exact how much we're missing. Well, we're going to be down probably, let's see, the amount that education fund is down, probably, close to 100 million, but that goes over all the school, like colleges, it's the whole budget. But but we're working certainly with the, let me see where I had pulled up the second phase of the recovery process for the economic recovery package, which is a $400 million package. Phase one certainly is the financial assistance. That goes to mostly, the goal is to get that to, smaller businesses, anything that has to do with some agriculture, that hopefully is going to cover that. Any economic injury, disaster loan grant programs, to be able to work with any kind of grants or 0% interest rates for any of the Vermont Economic Development Authority to be able to divvy that up, and other non-traditional lenders. Hopefully we can get that money out to them and get the small businesses. And it's going to be kind of a challenge, I think, for especially some of the restaurants, and we have to really pay attention to that. We don't want to lose a lot of those businesses, because that's part of the, our economy and our tourism economy that we'd like to get back to. I think that's going to be one of the biggest concerns, I think, especially locally, if you look at what we have locally in our area, and to make sure that they can get back into full swing.
Yeah, because everything's a small business here. It's not like we have any big chains that are that can flex and have money in the bank. Everyone's living in their small business world, and they can't rely on a big group.
Absolutely, and it's hard. I know we were just talking about masks and how do you manage that, and that's kind of I think that's certainly public interest. Everybody wants to do the right thing, and it's a lot of people that if they're not, I don't think if they're aware. I know we were talking about making sure people are distancing still, the physical distancing, to make sure that we're giving everybody a chance of not getting. Sorry, it's really hot in my house today. Like no wind moving around here. So if everybody can just be mindful of each other's space. I think now that everything is opening up, which is what we want to bring money back in a little bit to, certainly to the businesses to make sure that they can keep going. And everybody loves seeing other people, but you still have to maintain the distancing. And we can't forget to wash our hands if we're touching anything, if we're going out and about, is to stay our distance. And how does that look to businesses, and how does that feel if somebody walks in with a mask or without a mask? There are some, certainly Burlington and Brattleboro have instituted their town as a mandatory mask if you're in a business. And those are the two that have done it that I'm aware of.
Yeah. It's really an interesting thing because it's the key to everything, but it seems to somehow become a political statement, and it's really a shame because if you would just, to me, it's no different than wearing a helmet when on a motorcycle or wearing my seatbelt. I've always done that. I didn't do it before. I did it before it was a law to do it because I don't want to die. It's like,
right.
It's crazy.
Right, it is. It's one of those hard things. But again, if you can imagine that, most of the people, I don't know if I've seen somebody go into the grocery store without a mask on, and I'm sure they have. But if they do, you have a mask on, and it doesn't mean that they're gonna cough or sneeze, but you don't know. Certainly you protect yourself so you don't spread it, and you just hope everybody does. And I know there are some communities that have been, I know Putney, I don't know if you've seen, they have a mask tree so people can help themselves to a mask if they don't have.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool that they offer up. I do have some masks that if I see somebody and they don't have one, I offer up a mask. I said, It's not fancy, I made it, but certainly. I think it's important because maybe some people don't know to ask to have that resource.
Right.
And I'm hoping that there's other people. I know there's a lot of people out there making them. They're becoming more available than they have been in the last 3 weeks. So
there's a lot of people making. There are a lot of people making them, and it seems like they're back on the market too. Like maybe the supply train is caught up with demand, and people are. You can see where there's a lot of ads. They're a little more expensive now, but there are a lot of ads that you can get a mask.
Right. And you could one.
What? Mike's wearing his now.
I always have mine with me.
I think it goes back to something that I read when all of this first started, and it said that you should act as if you are carrying the virus, or act as if others have it. So therefore, that's where the masks kind of fit in, because you don't know. There's a whole percentage of asymptomatic people, and it seems like a kind of minor precaution. Mm-hmm. Like maybe you don't wear it in your car or walking to the door of the grocery store, but you put it on as soon as you come in and when you go out, and you just, you never know who you're going to run into and who might be compromised. So you have to kind of think a little bit beyond ourselves.
Exactly.
You do. That's a good point. And you do when you're. There are also some people that may have one of the struggles I think that exists is there are some people who have either breathing conditions. They find it very difficult to breathe with a mask on. So if you're not one of those, and certainly hopefully you can wear a mask, because there are still going to be people that are unable from some medical condition, or if they've got asthma real bad, and any kind of extra work for them might be an issue. So as long as you're wearing it, you can protect yourself as well. Because that's going to be a minority, but you still, regardless of how many people you see, you still might see some people not wearing it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where you're protecting. You're thinking of them because they can't wear one. So if you have yours on, then they're more protected than if you weren't wearing yours as well.
Right.
Yeah. And it's sort of like what Marty said about thinking like you have it. I was talking with my son just today, and he's a home health worker in Brooklyn, So he's
Wow.
he's been in the middle of it for the whole time, but he's never really been sick. And there was a time at one point where he lost his sense of smell, and we kept saying, you could have it, you should go, and he was in and out of work and stuff. But just this week he got tested for the antibody. He had the serum antibody test, and
How'd that go?
and he has the antibodies. So at some point he was asymptomatic and carrying COVID-19,
Right.
but who would have known? It's like he knew because he lost his sense of smell. But
Right.
from outward appearances, there's Will Smith, and just walking along doing his thing.
Right,
Yeah.
but did he have trouble finding masks when he's down there?
No, because
Good.
his father sent him. His father and mother
Yeah.
made. Yes, it was I guess it's one of those things about being a dad. I happened to find some N95s that went to him, and I found some.
Good.
We made masks, and they went to him, and so he's covered.
Well, that's good because he was a direct care provider,
Yeah,
and that's super
definitely.
important.
And
My son is out west where there's more wide open spaces than Brooklyn, and they closed down a couple weeks after we did, and they opened up a week and a half ago, and so I'm really watching them very closely
Yeah.
to see because they are allowing people to dine inside.
That's an interesting.
But you can't stand at a bar. You have to be at a table with just the people you came with. And they do keep the groups under, I think, right around 6 or 8. They can't be any more than that. That still seems high to me. But they've not had any new cases.
Yeah, I think, and as much as I hate to say it, it's nice to have all these guinea pigs who are willing to go out and try these things, because then we can sit back and go, oh, that worked or that didn't work, and that's cool, and maybe we'll figure it out at that point. I wish we had more testing around that though, but that's my thing. Is sort of like I think this serum test is a great idea. That if you know,
I think that's a fantastic idea. And in the meantime, have you seen they do have all the pop-ups that are available. I don't know if you've got online, if anybody's seen any of those.
Well, I know they have one in Brattleboro for a little
They
while.
actually, they have, if you go on to the Department of Human Resources, the COVID testing events, it's humanresources.vermont.gov/pop-ups, with an S. That, you can scroll down and check. So this week, right now, they have some testing available through the, you have them all over the state: Brattleboro, Rutland, Morrisville, Manchester, Springfield. So they do have, and you just have to go ahead and sign up and fill in your data to get a schedule. But that's not for the serology yet.
Yeah, but that's
That's just the
the
safety
swab
department.
one, right? Yeah,
Yep.
that's the better of the two, and it's not the Abbott one that's really fast that gives all the fuss. Yeah,
Right,
I was
right.
really appreciative of when I watched the briefing and the I'm not sure who the health officer is who does it every day, but when he said, "Well, we looked at the Abbott one," and it was like, "No, maybe not. Maybe we'll hold off for a little while."
Right, but there are out there, and you can sign up right online. You can also call, if you have any questions, you can always call the 211 number to have it. If you can't sign things up on the computer by yourself, you certainly can call 211 and get the information. They can also help provide some transportation if somebody needs to get there and they don't have it.
Okay, good. I need to check with Alex and see how we're doing on time here, he's giving me lots of warning. He says we have 2 minutes left. So, it's always good to know ahead of time that you have 2 minutes left instead of like maybe if you had 5 minutes left. But all right.
Do you guys have anything that you think, as we're going through budget and we're doing all the last minute stuff to make sure everybody's, safe and secure, or is there any things that you've been hearing out in the public that you think we need to make sure we're addressing?
Well, I just hear scary stuff because I hear, I watch the New York briefing, the Kumo briefing every day, and he's like, if we don't get money from the federal government, we're going to be cutting, and it's going to hurt. It's going to be like hospitals, police, teachers, and I can't imagine we're that different. So
I think we're probably not that different. I think we work together better.
mm-hmm.
I think that we do have, I think everybody, certainly as we're talking through, they want to be very conscientious of where the money's spent so it can go to do the most good for the most people.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's really our biggest focus.
Yeah.
I think really just keeping in mind the fact that Vermont is pretty much built on small independent businesses. I mean, we don't have a lot of the chain businesses. We have a lot of, mom and pop shops that have been in business for a really long time, and they've taken they're taking a big hit. And just
Mm-hmm.
be perspective of all of those people that, and the farming industry, because we're lucky that we have that here, that we have the ability to get fresh food within 5 to 10 mile radius. No matter where you are in Vermont, we can get fresh, locally grown agriculture.
Yeah,
And really pushing that aspect of, and getting people thinking, shop local, shop at the farmers market, shop at the roadside stands versus going to, big chain markets. I think that would be
Right.
really good use of either promotion money or campaigns or things like that.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I mean, really, and we do. I think we're probably better off than a lot of states, like you said, Marty, because we have access to local farms. I'm hoping we can help the dairy farmers out and keep them. I know that, that's going to be a tough one too, as far as making sure everybody can get their product to market.
Yeah. On that note, we're going to have to call it a day.
Okay.
Kelley, I hope you'll come back again. We're trying to work out a time when you can come, maybe, and tell us about the budget and everything else. And as this comes up, you'll hope to have you on again. But that's it for us this week, folks. This is the feed, Mike and Marty and Kelley Tullly, and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.